he's in position, and he would have said it. Listen, plain talk, bad manners yesterday. You tell the parents, control your children, or else we'll have to hold on to the kids. So he is coming with his mandate to bring some kind of, I would say, ease to the bullying situation. Because, I mean, he went off script yesterday. I'm sure there would have been some kind of paper with words prepared, but he basically spoke from the heart. And at least based on some of what I heard via the news last evening, that one stood out in terms of his call to the parents to control their children, or else. So he's coming in very sharp, and that's the new commissioner there. Young man, I believe they said 49, so he should be at this particular, at least in this seat for quite a while. And again, Trinidad and Tobago, that's your newly appointed, newly minted Commissioner of Police, Alistair Guevara. Also looking at other developments he has mentioned, Finance Minister delivers mid-year budget today. Finance Minister Tanku, he will take to the Parliament, and I guess we saw yesterday a couple of different ministries putting in their request. Ministry of Health, Public Utilities, couple ministries stand out top of mind. And we'll have that discussion, that deeper discussion this morning. Coming to give perspective this morning, we welcome the former minister in the Ministry of Finance, Brian Manning. He will join us on the Zoom line. And also, former minister in the Ministry of Finance in the last UNC administration. We're talking about Mr. Vasant Bharath, no stranger to the program. So we welcome Vasant and Brian to the program this morning to give some perspective. Then later on inside the second hour, we get the Tobago perspective, because they also have their budget coming up, their mid-year review that's going to be delivered in the THA House next week. And Diane Haddad, past chairman of the Tobago Vision of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, will join me. And then to wrap things up later on, Dr. Indira Sajiwan, economist, to, again, pull apart and go through the layers and really give us some kind of perspective. Let's see if there is some silver lining, because we're hearing that particular call, and it's one that the current administration would have put forward within recent time, and when they took controls of the wheel a couple of weeks ago, they said that the economy is crashed, right? The past administration crashed the economy. That's the call from the new administration. So let's find out if indeed that is the case, and if so, how we could come out of this particular situation. So again, a couple of other stories engaging the public's attention. Man crushed to death in a freak accident there at Gulf City Mall car park. Really unfortunate situation. The man was really just trying to help. Just trying to help, you know, and deceased is Ethan Collymore. Sincere condolences to the Collymore family. I mean, most unfortunate. I mean, so many people were trying to help. People literally were trying to lift the car. You seeing this? It was everybody trying to activate, you know, render assistance. He was able to get that said assistance, but unfortunately, he passed away. I'm sure the driver of the car too, sure, very traumatized, probably in a shambles this morning, and they'll be in a shambles for quite a long time. Of course, they'll have to do the investigations, of course, but very unfortunate circumstance. And another story that I would imagine it's for those who would have heard it, they're still trying to figure out what that making sense. That story coming out of the east, out of the Santa Rosa Primary School, where a man slipped through a fence, went in his school, posed as a substitute teacher, told students, here we're going on, let's take some furniture from the class into a particular room, lock the room, and try to molest the children. I mean, these are the stories that just get your blood boiling. People just get, I tell you, cross, angry, very upset. And of course, I guess investigations ongoing to everybody involved, trying to find the perpetrator. And if indeed, well, like I say, when indeed they find them, set an example, because that is unacceptable. And let's fix that hole in the fence too. Better security measures. This cannot be, that's, when I heard that story, I said, no man, it's probably fake news. And then, everybody would have done their due diligence, and indeed, that really it took place. And many of the students don't even want to go back out to school right now, traumatized, understandably so. So that's one where, you can never tell what's going to take place. Never a dull moment, unfortunately, in Trinidad and Tobago. And we want, obviously, there are some good stories happening. There's one on the brief I'll bring to you very, very soon. So it's not only doom and gloom, but there's some of the stories that it's unbelievable, and you try to figure out what some of the citizens are thinking. It's one of those scratch-head moments, that particular story out of the primary school in the East. Let's set to the back page, some basketball action. Of course, the Thunder, they're literally one game away from history. So, series lead right now, Thunder 3-2, Indiana. They must win going into the next game. Of course, the West Indies women also lose a series decider. I don't know what's going on with our West Indies women. It's been some tough days. And of course, the FIFA Club World Cup also in full swing, lots of big games. A couple of your favorite clubs taking part. But I want to take it back to the local development here with the school. We're talking here the Secondary Schools Track and Field National Championship. So I was watching on the news last evening with Jassy. A couple of great athletes, some amazing potential. But I'm watching, of course, the races happening there, and I guess they would have had probably people in the covered stands, because at no point the camera panned to the covered stands. But again, the turnout for these tournaments, the promotion, I didn't even know. Sometimes you don't even know these things are happening. And when you look at our counterparts of the islands, Jamaica, for their champs, that's their schoolboy and schoolgirl track and field meet. Their stadium is almost capacity. As a matter of fact, they have some of these races straight into sometimes the evening, so that the place is a bit cool, and more people could come out and take in the races. Right next door in Grenada, their intercol is not football, it's actually track and field. It happens at their national stadium there in St. George's. A massive turnout also right there in Grenada. So I'm thinking, what do we, or at least what's the message we're sending to our young athletes if it's just mommy and daddy or a little cousin come out and nobody else? Obviously, yes, people working. I know it's not a scenario where you could just pick up yourself and go to these games, but I don't know if it's probably one where we could utilize a holiday or a weekend, or just do a better promotion, and probably corporate TNT, we need to get involved a little bit more to really render that assistance and give these youngsters some kind of incentive, so at least when they walk out, it's not just mommy and daddy, and that's even if mommy and daddy go into. I'm sure that some kids would have run out there yesterday and probably nobody in the stands, which to me is really unfortunate. So let's give the youngsters a support. I'm clearly seeing there is potential for greatness with some of these young stars, but I would love a day for these young athletes to go to the stadium and run to, I even want to ask for a packed stadium just yet. At least, the grandstand, covered stands, at least let it cover the whole covered. Have a little crowd, because you feel a bit different. There is a different incentive, a different motivation. There's a different spirit when you run in front of a packed audience. You hear that crowd. It's almost like your legs, it's willing you to do even more. And especially if there's a loved one in the audience, if mommy, daddy, somebody there, you want to show them, hey, it's encouragement. You're looking in the stands, you know where they are. Yes, you'll be nervous. All these things happen. But we expect greatness from our athletes when we put them on the world stage. But if we don't support them when they start the journey, what we expect? We want the glory, but we do support them when they start the story. So just had to mention that this morning and just make the comparison with some of our neighbors and look at the success they've been having. Well, Jamaica, they've been, in charge of that track and field for quite a while. So they have a whole different energy and spirit. That's something really big for them. But Grenada, just come out. People come out to take in the youngsters run. And for the life of me, every time you hear secondary schools track meet, bare minimum in terms of the crowd. Now, again, I didn't see the full pan of the grandstand, but knowing how these things would have been in the years gone by, if it was a full grandstand, by all means, I would love somebody to tell me if it was a full grandstand, but I highly doubt. By all means, we'll open the lines later on to give you a chance to get in on the open forum, and we look forward to that. A feel-good story this morning. It's not only doom and gloom in The Guardian. We always try to give that balance, and I'm really happy to announce this morning that, remember Chloe Ramnarine, cancer patient? Well, the family grateful as Chloe secures full funding for her cancer care. Chloe is thankful, the mother, everybody extremely grateful, and obviously this story is just a feel-good story. She got the treatment out there in Colombia, and we could safely say with the story being out there, the family, sharing with us, Chloe sharing with us her story, help came. And that's how we are. Trinbagonians, I sincerely believe there is lots of goodness in the place. We still have a big heart, and we are a giving people. So Chloe, full speed ahead. And also I'm seeing the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard officers leaps onto a vessel from the jetty here. That's down in Cedros yesterday doing their maritime security operation, their routine maritime operation. So Coast Guard on location there at the Cedros port. Just trying to keep I would imagine, the water safe. But that looked like a pirogue the Coast Guard on. I mean, come on. That's a different conversation for a different day. Let's head now to the break. As mentioned, Brian Manning joins us on the Zoom line. It's the mid-year budget review. We're dealing with at least we start the conversation. Later on, Ryan will continue. A couple of top guests will join him at 7:30 to talk about the mid-year budget review and also discuss the state of the Treasury. That's later on at 7:30. Up next, Brian Manning.
Have you ever experienced an unexpected power outage? The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management has some important and simple tips to help you and your loved ones be better prepared for a power outage in the event of a disaster. 1. Ensure that you have candles and extra torch lights as alternate sources of lighting. 2. Keep fully charged power banks to recharge your devices. 3. Use hand-cranked radios to receive updates from official sources. 4. If possible, keep a power generator or AC inverter that can be connected to a car battery to use as an alternate source of power. 5. Ensure your grab-and-go bags and home emergency kits are packed and ready. The ODPM wants you and your loved ones to be better prepared. For more information, visit www.odpm.gov.tt. A message from the ODPM.
Period nights don't have to look like this. Move less, wake up to change. So change for a real night's sleep with Always Overnight. Its 3 times protection system absorbs, locks the fluid, and keeps it away from your skin. For protected nights without leaks. Always.
Get a loan at Bremont. The process is simple. Fast and efficient approvals. Receive funds within 24 hours once approved. And no penalty for early repayment. Located at 4 Gala Street, Woodbrook. Remember, we like to lend.
Feeling off balance? Your body might be missing AMPK. It's your natural reset, regulating how your body stores fat and processes sugar. Berberine Plus activates AMPK, helping your cells use energy better, reduce fat, and keep sugar levels in check. Berberine Plus, now at Pennywise and leading pharmacies nationwide.
10 years with his one-man show, Love Is, June 21st and 22nd at Queen's Hall. 1 children show, 2 adult shows, 1 hilarious weekend. So wait, who on this Love Is show? Apple, Wetty, Mark, Flicky, Jessica, Cherise, Maya Kai, Mr. Trevor, Miss Janice. Alrighty, rock. Wait, I not hearing my name. We have John Paul from Canada, Penelope from Belmont, and Cecilia from Digo. I'm still not hearing my name. Tickets available at Dorman Shoe Store, Beachology, Mokorapa Road, Gate Square Stores, Eastgate Mall, Brentwood Plaza, The Falls at West Mall, C3 Center San Fernando, Electronics Arima, Queen's Hall Box Office, and online at islandetickets.com. All year road, he only using me and I not in the show who he feel I is. Bob the Builder. For more info, call 376-5699 or 683-4843.
joined by the former minister in the Ministry of Finance and current Member of Parliament for San Fernando East, Brian Manning. He joins me on the Zoom line. Great to see you, Brian. Thanks for the time this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
Definitely a pleasure. Definitely. Of course, we're looking at the mid-year budget review. It's going to take place in a couple of hours. And obviously, the argument being put forward at this point in time by the new administration is that the previous administration that you were a part of crashed the economy. Your thoughts on that particular argument?
Yes, sadly, the facts do not bear that out. And anyone who has been paying attention would realize that. The economy that we handed over to the other side, Trinidad and Tobago, right now, remains the only investment-grade country in all of the Caribbean region. And we are one of the few in Latin America and the Caribbean. An investment-grade rating means that international lending agencies have confidence that we can repay our debts. What this government has done is that they have crashed almost every source of additional revenues, while at the same time adding a level of recurrent expenditure that they have not been able to explain how it is going to be financed. How are we going to afford these additional expenses? And that almost certainly, especially with the abolition of the TTRA, which was to be a major source of additional revenues, because it was meant to ensure that everyone in this country paid their fair share in taxes and not have this inordinate tax burden being carried by the working class and the middle class of this country, and to ensure that wealthy business people, including highly paid professionals who may be running their private practices, also pay their fair share in taxes. That would have closed at almost $10 billion annual tax gap in Trinidad and Tobago. What we have right now is, with this appropriation, supplementary appropriation, the government is attempting to saddle this country with quite possibly the single largest budget in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, which means it's the highest amount of expenditure in our country's history, and at the same time not saying or even considering where the additional revenues will come from to cover those expenses. It could possibly, at the end of the day, the single largest budget in the history of this country, and also one of, if not the single largest budget deficit in the history of this country.
Well, I'm seeing that the figure so far is $3.14 billion. That's the added supplemental funding. And obviously a couple of different ministries already put forward their request. Health, I'm seeing public utilities. Even when we consider Tobago, Tobago's going to have their own mid-year review next week. And even Tobago, at least what's on offer right now for Tobago, they're saying is not enough.
What has been quite startling about that is that we have members of the TPP right there in Parliament, and they didn't ask the government a single question about the appropriation for Tobago, which is something all have found extremely strange, especially since the TPP has been insisting for years that they are not part of the UNC, are not being assisted by the UNC. Yet it seems as if the UNC is speaking on their behalf in the Parliament.
So, hold on, Brian, you're suggesting here that in that meeting we saw everybody was looking at this week, TPP were there and no questions were asked by the TPP?
The TPP members, the two members that are part of the House of Representatives, sitting within the UNC benches, sat there and did not ask a single question of the government, and said absolutely nothing in the debates that have gone on so far in the Parliament. And they should be asked why that is.
What's your take on the chairman's performance thus far, Chairman Jagdeep Singh? Fair and balanced in his assessment?
Well, I feel that the members on the government side have been allowed quite a bit of leeway in saying some things that they want to say, and that those on our side have been restricted in some of the things that we want to say. But I am thinking that we have a new chairman, a new Speaker of the House, and that he is finding his way and looking for his footing as someone who has just been newly sworn in to such an important role. So we are hoping that there's a bit more fairness in deliberations going forward.
But Brian, you know, we have seen in the political culture of Trinidad and Tobago that right before election there is lots of spending, the rush to complete projects, the rush to pay out certain contractors. You know, lots of money is circulating, and I'm sure that would have transpired prior to April 28th. And I'm thinking that is one of the reasons, I would imagine, the new administration They're looking at the figures, watching how the T's would have been crossed and seeing if you're able to dot all the I's, and hence we're getting all the arguments now that we are in a particular position, in a dark place, because of what's considered misspending or wild spending towards the, well, at least the end of the election cycle.
Again, that is not borne out by any of the numbers. The largest budgets in the history of Trinidad and Tobago came in 2014 and 2015 and right now. And during those periods, the UNC has been in office. Sadly, this has been their modus operandi. They intend to borrow today, spend today, and forget tomorrow. That is what they're doing. We cannot come to the parliament and have all of this additional expenditure, but at the same time cancel every source of additional revenues that could cover these expenses and then claim it was the previous government that crashed the economy. The economy we handed over to those on the other side was an investment-grade rated economy. That is borne out by all of the independent international rating agencies, by the IMF, by the World Bank. All of our metrics showed that we were a strong economy, and many of the rating agencies also rated our economy as stable, if not positive, in its outlook. With the cancellation of the TTRA, which was meant to close a $10 billion tax gap in this country, cancellation of the Dragon Field project, cancellation of the lease for reopening the Pointe-a-Pierre refinery, this government has really backed itself into an economic corner and has no idea where additional revenues for the short and medium term will come from. But that has not stopped them from burying this country under a mountain of debt and also reaching into the HSF. Through all of the deliberations so far, the government has not stated once how much funds they have taken out of the HSF to cover this expenditure. And that is something that I hope is addressed before this debate is concluded.
Do you have any idea why a supplemental allocation of $128.4 million would be requested for the office of the Prime Minister?
I couldn't say at this point in time. That is a question that we have asked. Unfortunately, the Speaker the Chairman at the time has stated that some of the questions asked by the opposition, the government had leeway in whether they answered them or not, which is something we all found extremely strange in the PNM benches. The House of Representatives is a place where that the people of this country can find out exactly how their tax dollars are being spent. There's no secret expenditure in government. That is what the Parliament is for, to ensure that the people of this country are informed as to what the government is doing and how the government is spending its money. So it's extremely strange that we asked this question of the line minister at the time, or some people have been calling him the de facto prime minister, and we asked the question and we could not receive a sensible, competent answer.
Well, I'm watching the allocations and the ministries that are making requests. I mean, obviously, some of them dealing with public utilities, roads. Of course, we're in the rainy season, so I know there's certain remedial work that needs to be done, but there was no allocation towards culture, nothing towards sport. And I'm thinking, if we are having that diversification conversation, yet again, these are low-hanging fruits that obviously, if a little incentive is put there, we could get probably some returns. Even agriculture, didn't really see agriculture on the list. What's your recommendation as to the spending?
It's not appropriation for agriculture, but it wasn't very large.
Wasn't very large. It was probably later down on the list. What's your, I mean, are you still optimistic though? I mean, obviously we are in, it's a new administration. It's still early days. This is the mid-year budget review. Of course, we expect the full budget later on this year. Is there a sense of optimism, or are you going to hold your particular corner and keep the administration accountable?
This appropriation is for really the 3 months left for this fiscal year. And I had been hoping against hope, that the government would not have cancelled the TTRA, would not have cancelled the lease that was issued for reopening of the Pointe-a-Pierre refinery, and would have really looked into more revenue-generating projects. Sadly, looking at this appropriation, we have about $811 million in 3 months being spent on recurrent transfers and subsidies. And at the same time, almost $279 million being spent on developmental projects. So developmental projects are how we as a country increase our capacity to generate additional revenues. It is clear that the focus of this government is only on expenditure and not on the revenues to cover this additional expenditure. They care about today while mortgaging the future of this country and forgetting about tomorrow. The challenge that the government does not seem to want to face is that if you borrow money, you have to pay it back at some point, and there must be a plan for that repayment. But that is not what the government is doing, and it is not what they are offering. They have yet to say exactly where will the additional revenues come from to cover this profligate spending.
Mr. Manning, I want to ask you, as it pertains to at least one of the stories that would have been via the entertainment landscape, the Vibes Cartel scenario, knowing that you would have been in the office there.
In the concert?
Right. Well, we're probably in the concert too, and the concert never took place. But many were up in arms about the Forex, the issue with where did the promoter get, that large amount to distribute to Cartel. Of course, we know Cartel didn't make his way to the country because of the rest of money's not being delivered. But with the Forex scenario and the trouble to receive Forex, just to get your perspective on that development.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, foreign exchange is really managed by the central bank and the banking system of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not managed by the government. And that is why when the Minister of Finance asked, when he stated that he was going to investigate the matter, there was a hue and a cry about it, because the Minister of Finance does not have any ability to investigate how Forex is being distributed by the central bank or by the banking system. He doesn't have the power to call a bank or to reach into the banking system and to look into anybody's account or to determine who gets foreign exchange and who doesn't. That is a matter for the central bank, independent agency, and for the banking sector of Trinidad and Tobago. The Minister of Finance was out of place in making such an incredible statement. And those who understand know that the government has zero ability to manage Forex in this country or to even look into who or how that Forex is being spent.
Thanks for that. So as we look to wrap things up, again, just to reiterate, you were suggesting here that the economy was in good stead, handed over to the new administration. I would imagine, so basically what's happening now, is that just part of the political culture? Because we have seen, I mean, it happened during even new administration when it was when PNM took reins in 2015. There were also claims that the economy, you received the economy in a bad state and a bad shape. Yeah. So I've seen that as a particular cycle in the political landscape, and I just thought it was just part of the political process.
Well, unfortunately, the numbers don't bear that out, right? The reality of the situation doesn't suggest that. But it is clear that the information that we have from international rating agencies, not the PNM, not from the former Minister of Finance, not from PNM party groups or so on, from independent international agencies, that this economy was stable with a positive outlook and an investment-grade country when the previous PNM government demitted office. For the now government to come to say that the economy has been crashed, it could have only been crashed by their poor decisions. The previous government had several conditions that were in place to ensure that there were additional revenue generation. The Dragon Gas deal, the TTRA, which was meant to close a $10 billion tax gap in this country, reopening of the Pointe-a-Pierre refinery. All of these projects were online and moving forward. When in the first meeting in the parliament, the government has decided to crash all of these projects, which would have canceled these additional revenues, which could have been used to pay for additional expenditure. Even some of the ridiculous promises they made to the PSA and so on could have been covered if the TTRA were implemented and that tax gap closed. The government has starved itself of additional revenues, while at the same time loading up on additional expenditure and debt to the detriment of this economy. They have no one to blame but themselves.
MP Manning, Mr. Manning, I want to ask you, before we wrap things up, do you expect to anticipate a lengthy presentation? And more so, do you get a chance to respond, similar to what we see in the national budget? Is it that you get a chance at a future date to respond to this media review? And do you anticipate a lengthy presentation? Because, you know, the last one was very lengthy under Minister Imber at the time.
Yes, multiple MPs will speak today, and I know that the Minister Imbert will respond to the initial statement, which we expect to be made by the Minister of Finance. So today's debate should go on for some time. But you should hear from multiple MPs on both sides of the aisle. And that's what Parliament is about. Parliament is for disseminating information to the people of this country by their elected officials. And I hope that going forward that the Speaker of the House understands this and allows the government to come to Parliament and to give information when it is requested. That is what the Parliament is for, so that the people of this country can be well informed as to what the government is doing and how their tax dollars are being spent.
Do you anticipate, Mr. Manning, we might hear from the opposition leader today in this very important conversation?
I would suppose so, but I cannot speak for the opposition.
Any closing remarks as we wrap things up, Mr. Manning?
Yes, you know, it's unfortunate that the previous government had quite a few plans in terms of moving this economy forward. We had been through some of the tough times in the past decade, I would say the past 10 years, accounting for a collapse in energy prices in 2014, 2015. Also the COVID crisis in 2020 was some of the more challenging economic times in the history of this country. But we were well prepared coming out of COVID to be on the path to economic growth and expansion, and that is exactly what many of these projects, including the Dragon Gas deal and the TTRA, were meant to do for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is almost certain now, with what this current government is doing, that we will experience a credit downgrade by the international rating agencies. And that is going to affect the cost of living across the board in this country and cause an increase in almost every interest rate in the country. That is an unfortunate situation. And this government has no one to blame for that but themselves.
Former Minister in the Ministry of Finance and current Member of Parliament for San Fernando East, Brian Manning, touching base. All the best, Mr. Manning, and thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much, and all the best to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much for having me. All the best.
You're welcome, of course. We just heard there from Mr. Brian Manning. We stand by now to touch base with Vasant Bharath, also would have held that particular office of former Minister in the Ministry of Finance. And we'll get his perspective, Mr. Bharath's perspective, on the media budget 2025 and more so the current political landscape.
The detergent smells nice while washing, but when you use the new Downy Intense fabric softener, with its new multi-capsule fragrance, it releases an intense scent that lasts twice as long. With the new Downy Intense, you'll enjoy a rich and delightful fragrance that keeps you feeling fresh 24/7.
Are you ready to innovate, create, and lead? Welcome to Innovation Nation 2025, where big ideas turn into real-world solutions. This is your time to shine. Join Innovation Nation 2025 and shape the future one idea at a time. Registration ends Wednesday, June 30th.
It's Jenny's exclusive Big Father's Day sale. Get 25% off everything for Dad. All stores and online. Shop early and keep Dad looking sharp. Jenny's exclusive Big Father's Day sale. JD's, Princesstown, San Fernando, Rio Claro, Glassboro Mall, and M6 Plaza Chaguanas. Your low price headquarters, JD's.
ChatGPT, I'm falling.
Failing grades? Contact Student Hub.
I ain't say failing, I say falling.
Then it's time to stop failing. Student Hub helps students succeed online. If school feels like a free fall, Student Hub helps you land on top.
This is not a procedure. It's just a hard-working cream.
Revitalift Triple Power with pro-retinol, hyaluronic acid, and vitamin C visibly reduces wrinkles, firms, and brightens skin in 1 week.
Ladies, it's time to ask for more.
Revitalift Triple Power by L'Oreal Paris.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on CNC3 and start your wellness journey today.
Magical Expressions Limited is the largest local importer and distributor of fresh-cut stems, offering the widest range of beautiful flowers at the most affordable prices. Call us today at 701-6488, 701-6680, 728-6786, or visit our website to order.
With the new government in power, the country will get a fresh look at the state of the Treasury. On Wednesday, June 18th from 7:30 p.m., join me, Ryan Beju, for the mid-year budget review as economists, business leaders, and energy experts weigh in on the new administration's findings, promises, and priorities. Will this budget change the course or simply reshuffle the numbers? State of the Treasury, Wednesday, June 18th from 7:30 p.m. on CNC3, Freedom 106.5 FM, and Guardian Media's social media platforms.
Former Minister in the Ministry of Finance and former Trade Minister Vasant Bharath joins me live on set. Always great to have Mr. Bharath with me on the program. We'll get a chance to discuss the mid-year budget review and more so the political landscape. Mr. Bharath, welcome to the program yet again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and good morning to all of your guests.
Well, I just had Brian Manning on. I don't know if he was listening to him in the green room. And obviously, I put forward the question as to the current state of the economy and the fact that the new administration would have said in the public domain that it's more or less crashed. He said, well, the numbers do not suggest so. He said it was handed over in good stead to the new administration. Just from your lens, observing, looking at the numbers, where do you see the current economy and the handing over process from the previous to the new administration?
So I did have an opportunity whilst I was in the green room to look at the tail end of Brian's commentary, and he talked at length about the projects that have been withdrawn and the projects that the previous government had in train. And he spoke about Dragon Gas, he spoke about the TTRA being disbanded, and I think he spoke about Petrotrin. Well, they've had 10 years, and those projects still were in abeyance, right? Those projects were still to come after 10 years. I want to agree with the current minister that the economy has been crashed, and all of the evidence points to that. In fact, if you look at the last 10 years, Jason, you'll see that there's been almost zero, negative, or very little growth. You compare us to some of our CARIBCOM neighbors, you compare us to other countries in the world. I was in Fiji a couple of years ago. Their growth rate the year before coming out of COVID was 15.4%. Right? Our growth rates have been zero, negative, or maybe 1.2% at most in any of the last 10 years. You look at our oil production, for example, you will see that last year, at the end of June, oil production was the lowest it's been for 86 years. Gas production, the lowest it's been for 22 years. Our SME sector has almost crashed. Going into COVID, we had over 20,000 SMEs in Trinidad and Tobago employing over 220,000 people. I think, according to recent statistics, that's almost halved. Hundreds of businesses have closed down. Thousands of people have been sent home. In fact, the record at the central bank will show that our GDP has regressed by about 20% in the last 10 years. That's quite significant at 20%. Look at the record levels of debt we've incurred in the last 10 years. In 2015, the country's debt level was $76.5 billion. And that was accumulated debt over the last 50 or 60 years. The country's debt was $76.5 billion. At the end of 2024, that figure had risen to $143.5 billion. It almost doubled. There was a $67 billion increase in debt. Look at, I know Brian spoke about the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, but if you look at the withdrawals from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund since 2016, In 2016, it was 375 million US dollars. In 2017, it was $252 million. In 2020, $1.178 billion. In 2021, it was $345 million. Increase. 160 in 2023, and 209 million withdrawn from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, a grand total of 3.2 billion US dollars. That's 21.85 billion TT dollars. In addition to that, one must remember that the IMF had granted Trinidad and Tobago something called SDR, special drawing rights, 644 million US dollars. That's 4.3 billion dollars. When you add all of that up, that's a total of an additional 67 billion dollars borrowed, 21.8 billion taken out of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, and 4 billion used up from IMF money. That's $93 billion. And so the question is, why is the economy in the state that it's in and the quality of life of people in Trinidad and Tobago so low? And I think those are some of the issues we've got to address. And just be quickly, capital flight has been recorded as quite significant amount. 2023, 1.5 billion US. 2022, 930 million, and in 2021, 910 million US dollars. So capital flight, and then you spoke about foreign exchange shortage.
Yes.
So all of those things come into the mix to add to the fact that add weight to what the Minister of Finance said, that the economy has crashed.
And in that regard, I would imagine the new Minister of Finance will have a balancing act to do, because I'm looking at the ministries where certain allocations will be delivered and administered today. So of course, health being at the top of the list. I'm sure, yes, we have medical obligations and infrastructural work to do in that regard. Works and transport, remedial work, infrastructural work again, rainy season, work to be done in that regard. My question is, how could the government, at this point in time, despite all the different issues, still find ways to generate money, and especially generate foreign reserves, foreign exchange? Because I did not see anything there for tourism or even, let's say, culture or probably sport. It seems to me those particular ministries are never really given much consideration, and even manufacturing too.
Yeah. So I think at the moment, the government is assessing the financial position in the country. Also, part of the reason for doing a mid-year review is to look at the financial numbers, the expenditure versus the revenues that they've inherited. It is to also look at the economic, to present an economic update to the country in terms of the GDP, the inflation rates, and so on. It's also an opportunity for them to lay out new policies with regard to socioeconomic issues, right? And then, of course, it gives us the opportunity. It gives them the opportunity to look at what you're talking now, which is a fiscal review, which they've now said they're putting another $3.1 billion towards the budget for this year. Now, you've got to remember that there are going to be certain priorities, having just come into government 6 or 8 weeks ago, there are going to be certain priorities that need attention, okay? And I think that they're looking at those priorities at this point in time. And when the budget comes around in 3 months' time, you're going to see a far fuller picture in terms of the focus for the future.
Some of those priorities would have rolled over from the last administration, you believe?
Well, some of those priorities we would have inherited. So, for example, to me, top priorities have to be issues dealing with crime,
yes,
and issues dealing with the economy. Now, they can't deal with everything a month after having gotten into government. They're going to have to look at the fuller picture and be able to come in September or October, whenever the budget is presented, with a much more focused and a much fuller picture for the country. For me, the issues right now are the issues of the economy. How do we kickstart the economy? How do we create jobs? How do we engage the young people in communities that will affect how they look at crime and how they look at being involved in gangs? And sometimes, in many instances, and data shows across the world, that the ability to find employment is directly linked to crime. Because what happens is, of course, idle hands, you've got nothing to do. You know, your partner on the block says, let me go do something, blah, 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 and one thing leads to another. You also would find that in an instance where there is low employment, gangs have a far greater emphasis in the communities because they engage the young people. So how do we link what the government has to do financially and economically to addressing also the underlying drivers of crime? And I think a lot has to do with how we engage the communities, how we engage SMEs to employ young people from the communities, how we incentivize SMEs to grow so that they can grow their labor pool. And I think one of the things that government has to do almost immediately is to create some kind of labor-intensive program across the country to engage people to get re-involved in working. And I think that would be a good start.
And, you know, as we take a break and we want to come back after the break, you know, there is a correlation between crime and business and how business interests, you know, view the landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. There are many people who would have actually packed up shop and leave because of the trauma of crime. So indeed, you know, these are top priorities, and we'll get a chance to discuss some more. I think we can transition into the political landscape when we come back. As mentioned, Vasant Bharath here with us, former Minister in the Ministry of Finance and former Minister of Trade, touching base with us on this Wednesday morning. See you soon.
Show Love Is, June 21st and 22nd at Queen's Hall. 1 children show, 2 adult shows, 1 hilarious weekend. So wait, who on this Love Is show? Apple, Wetty, Flicky, Jessica, Cherise, Maya Kai, Mr. Trevor, Miss Janice. Alrighty, rock. Wait, I'm not hearing my name. We have John Paul from Canada, Penelope from Belmont, and Cecilia from Digo. I'm still not hearing my name. Tickets available on the G Mokurapa Road, Gate Square Stores, Eastgate Mall, Brentwood Plaza, The Falls at West Mall, C3 Center San Fernando, Electronics Arima, Queen's Hall box office, and online at islandetickets.com. All year road, only using me, and I not in the show who he feel I is. Bubbly Builder. For more info, call 376-5699 or 683-4843.
Downy Unstoppables are laundry scent boosters. Add a capful before each wash and you'll be amazed. The blast of freshness that lasts and lasts. Whoa, what a blast! Even at the end of the day, you'll still be enjoying that blast of freshness in your clothes. Downy Unstoppables, the blast of freshness that lasts and lasts.
I'm looking for a magic for this disaster of a war.
You need a master plan.
A what?
Kaleidoscope Weathermaster Exterior Latex Emulsion. It stands up to our wicked sun and crazy rain. It shields against fading, protects against mildew, and is crack resistant. This paint so tough that it is tried and tested against British standards and formulated with European raw material.
Kaleidoscope Weathermaster Exterior Latex Emulsion, the premium outdoor paint that protects and shields against fading. Available at hardware and Kaleidoscope color shops nationwide.
Our world is filled with rhythm. Rhythm that's unapologetic, infectious, timeless. Rhythm is commitment in action. It's how we show up for each other with unrelenting support that goes the distance. Rhythm lives in the tiny beats of our most intimate moments and the seismic roars of our biggest achievements. Rhythm is resilience in motion. So even when things go out of sync, we do what it takes to bring the rhythm back. At Flow, we understand your rhythm because we live it. That's why we're dedicated to building a network as resilient as you, with a team of familiar faces working every day to keep you on beat. You're at the heart of everything we do, and our commitment is to keep your rhythm flowing, no matter what.
With me, Vasant Bharath on set, and you know, let me identify a couple of ministries that you actually held during your tenure. You were also Minister of Agriculture and Communication. All these different briefs at the same time. That was quite a workload. But I want to go back to, at least if you could put on your trade and investment cap for a moment, the current administration would have twinned trade and tourism together. Your perspective on that development, that coming together, as it were?
I'm a little surprised at that, to be honest, because I think for far too long, tourism has been the bastard child of all of the ministries in Trinidad and Tobago, where we have significant potential to earn foreign exchange. We've looked at tourism, from my perspective, in the wrong way, in that we've tried to compete with other markets with sun, sand, and sea. And there's so many markets across the globe that provide sun, sand, and sea that we have become uncompetitive as a result, or unattractive as a result, or not as attractive. And so therefore I felt that we've missed a trick whereby we could have promoted other forms of tourism, medical tourism, for example. We have the perfect place in Tobago to have medical tourism, where we could bring in doctors, or we have actually very qualified, highly qualified doctors in Trinidad and Tobago, many of them who have left, many of them who are leaving, who can come back even temporarily to work in these facilities. Health tourism, sports tourism. We've had people come down here and talk about the cycling, the velodrome that we have in Cuba, the swimming facilities during winter time. So I feel that we've missed a trick there in terms of promoting Trinidad and Tobago as a different type of destination for tourism. But it requires focus. It requires hand-holding. This is not something people are just, as this in Trinidad and Tobago. We've got to be out there selling Trinidad and Tobago. And I feel that twinning it with trade and industry, I think we've missed a trick there.
You know, spot on, because I know Cayman Islands would have capitalized on that medical tourism market.
Absolutely.
And they also have sand, sea, and the sun. As we wrap things up, just your general feeling with the new administration. Is there a sense of optimism? Yes, it's early days. They're trying to cross their I's, cross the T's and dot the I's. But just your sense of the new administration and your expectation in the minutes that remain.
Well, I think the country's given the government a huge mandate. Okay, they've shown in no uncertain way that they've rejected what was there, what existed before, for many reasons. We can go into that another time. But I think the government has a huge mandate. It's been given this mandate by the population based on the commitments that they have made, based on their manifesto, based on the fact that they have vowed to improve the quality of lives of people. There's no doubt that they've met, and they will meet as time goes by, very difficult situations. There's no doubt that Trinidad and Tobago, the economy of the country has crashed. And I agree with the Minister of Finance completely. The economy has crashed. The question is, what are the policies that the government is going to now put in place to do two things? To be able to meet the commitments that they have promised during the election cycle, and to be able now to put the country on a footing that we can start to accomplish a level of growth that can prepare us for the future. And I think those are the challenges that the government will come across in the next few months, and probably in the next year. And the country will be waiting with bated breath. What I will say is that traditionally, the population has not been as forgiving towards alternative governments as they have been towards the PNM. So the honeymoon period is not going to last as long. And there are going to be a lot of critics and a lot of criticisms, but they've got to get down to doing the work of rebuilding the country. And I think healing the country is very important. We are more racially polarized than we've ever been in my lifetime. And certainly I think that's something that we can work on, because I think we can offer to the world a product, being our people, being what we have to offer in the country, that is second to none.
Mr. Bharath, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for being here this morning.
Always my pleasure.
Indeed. As we look to head to the 7 a.m. news update, stick around, much more as we continue with our mid-year budget review conversation all morning long. See you soon.
A very good morning. I'm Akash Samaru with headline news on CNC3 and the TBC radio network. Students and staff of the Santa Rosa Government Primary School are still traumatized after a sexual predator entered the school and locked himself in a room and attempted to molest several female students. The incident occurred 1 week ago, and officials confirmed that some of the students have not returned to school since. The suspect reportedly entered the school's compound along Pinto Road, Arima, through a hole in the fence. Pretending to be an OJT music teacher, the man requested help from students to move furniture from a storeroom to a classroom. After locking the door to the storeroom, he allegedly solicited sexual acts from the children for money. The students began to scream while students on the other side attempted to break the door. A female teacher who rushed to assist was unsuccessful in rescuing the students. As the teacher called the authorities, the suspect pushed past the teacher and escaped. NPTA President Walter Stewart called for an immediate and comprehensive overhaul of the school's safety measures. Meanwhile, Tutors President Martin Lumpkin claimed the hole in the school's fence was yet to be repaired. Tobago stakeholders are saying the $32 million supplementary allocation in the mid-year budget to the island is so small that they are undecided on how it should be spent. However, both tourism and business sector heads each believe they should benefit the most. The Tobago Chamber says the funds should be used to pay off outstanding debts, including to contractors and suppliers still owed after the oil spill. But Chairman Curtis Williams admits it's nowhere close to what's really needed. And many parents hope that they can live long enough to see their children accomplish their dreams. Celebrating his 110th birthday, Irving Joseph of Arima was able to do just that. Visitors gathered at the Supercentenarian's home on St. Joseph Street yesterday, including opposition leader and member of parliament for the area, Penelope Beckles. His daughter Joanne explained to CNC3 News how her father knew her calling, even when she tried to take a different route.
One of his dreams for me personally was to become a teacher. He always wanted me to become a teacher, and I was like, no. And eventually I end up turning out to be a teacher, so I know he is really happy about that. One of his dreams is also for us, all of his children, to own their own homes and stuff, and hoping that will come true.
Well, those were your 7 a.m. news headlines. We'll have another news update at 8 a.m. right here on CNC3 and the TBC Radio Network.
Visit Tire Clinic Marketing, New Truck and OTR Tire Service Center at number 30 and 32 Montrose Main Road, Chabonas. Call today at 665-8973 or 672-3419. Alignment services available. Tire Clinic Marketing, Truck and OTR Service Center. A tire for every need.
Get ready to sail back in time with Vibe City 105 FM. On the Labor Day holiday, June 19th, we're taking Retro Thursday to the seas. Retro Rewind. Join us on board the Harbor Master. Boarding at 9 a.m. And we set sail from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
On the boat ride, man, me go out.
Get your tickets now for just $250.
All cashier outlets, Guardian Media offices,
and online at islandetickets.com.
Get the best in affordable eyewear. Frames with blue filter lenses and eye exam, $399. Single vision lenses with transitions on designer frames, $799. Progressive transitions with designer frames, $1,399. Happening only at Seaview Optical. Affordable eye care for everyone.
Things don't always go as expected. Be ready with Trinry for auto, home, business and group life. Call us at 800-TRIN or visit trinry.com today. Huge insurance premium. Pay your premiums bit by bit with FlexiPay from Trinry. For more manageable auto, home and commercial insurance payments, call us at 800-TRIN or visit trinry.com today. Trinry. Premier insurance coverage for less.
Febreze. Still living with odors? Get back in there and freshen instantly with Febreze Air Mist. Febrze's fine mist floats longer in the air to fight even your toughest odors. So long, stinky smells, and hello, amazing freshness. Febreze Air Mist.
Eye care tips for Seaview Optical. Eat well. Good eye health starts with the food on your plate. Nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, lutein, zinc, and vitamin C and E might help ward off age-related vision problems. Quit smoking. makes you more likely to get cataracts, damage to your optic nerve, and macular degeneration. If you have tried to kick the habit before only to start again, keep at it. Wear sunglasses. The right pair of shades will help protect your eyes from the sun's ultraviolet UV rays. Use safety eyewear. If you use hazardous or airborne materials on the job or at home, wear safety glasses or protective goggles.
Get the best in affordable eyewear. Frames with blue filter lenses and eye exam, $399. Single vision lenses with transitions on designer frames, $799. Progressive transitions with designer frames, $1,399. Happening only at Seaview Optical. Affordable eye care for everyone.
Introducing Advancis Energy Vitamins. Advancis Energy Vitamins is designed to give you the extra push you need to power through your day. It's not just any multivitamin. Packed with more than 20 vitamins and minerals with added ginseng and reinforced prebiotics. A unique synergistic formula that you will find nowhere else. To help you experience more sustained energy, feel more alive and alert to keep you going strong all day long. See the difference now with Advancis Energy Vitamins. Available at leading pharmacies and Pennywise nationwide.
6 minutes after 7 o'clock, welcome to the second hour on this Wednesday. It's a short week, tomorrow and Friday, both public holidays, so I'm sure many will be putting their plans in place, but I need for you to understand what's taking place via the weather. Up next, our world weather wrap. Jamak will let you know how to plan this long weekend. Jamak, good morning.
Good morning. In today's weather wrap, we head over to Africa, where authorities in Congo said the death toll following devastating floods and separate boat accidents has reached 77, with more than 100 people still missing. A total of 48 bodies have been recovered in one of the northwestern provinces, where 3 boats sank during extreme weather last Wednesday, with 107 passengers still missing. The Ministry of Interior said that almost 50 people were rescued during the incident. Now, separately, 29 people are confirmed to have died after heavy rains over the weekend triggered floods and landslides in the capital city, marooning some areas and submerging many houses. Now let's head over to the United States, where severe weather caused damage in communities across Kansas yesterday. The powerful storms resulted in flooding, downed trees, and power outages. Wichita's National Airport reported a 101-mile-per-hour wind gust. That's about 162 kilometers per hour. A flash flood warning was issued for the area up until late this morning, and as of noon yesterday, roughly 16,000 customers were still without power around the state. Now, the local utility company said upwards of 150 linemen and vegetation management workers from neighboring states were traveling to the Wichita area to help. Now let's take a look at our local forecast for today. We can expect partly cloudy conditions with scattered showers and some isolated heavy showers or thunderstorms. This activity is due to the passage of tropical wave number 6 today. However, the area is expected to remain moist and unstable ahead of the next tropical wave, which is expected on Friday. Now, the chance of thunderstorms is a bit higher tomorrow and Friday, so we'll be looking out for the greater potential of flash flooding on those days. That's all for today's weather app. Back to you.
Again, very important to know what's taking place via the weather when we plan this long weekend, extremely long weekend out. Thank you so much, Jamak. Before we take the break, we have a very special birthday shout to take care of. Happy birthday to Julia Mills Anderson, who turned, hear this, 101 years young yesterday. Let me tell you, Miss Julia, congratulations. Look at you now in your Sunday best. Truly amazing. You know, she's all faculties together, standing strong. What a blessing it is. 100 indeed is to celebrate, but you've gone now to the next phase of 101. Congratulations. Congratulations indeed. Let's take the pause. We come back and we head to Tobago. Tobago Talks up next as we continue with this mid-year budget review, and more so for the Tobago Talks, their particular budget review that's going to transpire next week in the Tobago House of Assembly. See you soon.
Yes, with this one-man show, Love Is, June 21st and 22nd at Queen's Hall. 1 children show, 2 adult shows, 1 hilarious weekend. So wait, who on this love this show? Apple, Wetty, Buck, Flicky, Jessica, Cherise, Maya Kai, Mr. Trevor, Miss Janice. Alrighty, rock. Wait, I not hearing my name. We have John Paul from Canada, Penelope from Belmont, and Cecilia from Digo. I still not hearing my name. Tickets available at Dorman Shoe Store, Beachology, Mokorapa Road, Gate Square Stores, Eastgate Mall, Brentwood Plaza, The Falls at West Mall, C3 Center, San Fernando, Electronics Arima, Queen's Hall box office, and online at islandetickets.com. All year road, only using me and I not in the show who he feel I is. Bubbly Builder. For more info, call 376-5699 or 683-4843. Get it all at Southern Food Basket.
Southern Food Basket. Quality food to fill your basket. Get it all at Southern Food Basket. Fresh goods on every aisle with best prices. For the best mix and market, high quality, yes. It's affordable, spacious, and customer friendly. From the farm to the cart to your plate, Southern Food Basket, good food at great prices. Come on home, everybody, don't you wait. Southern Food Basket's the best marketplace for you. Southern Food Basket. Quality food to fill your basket. Southern Food Basket. Quality food to fill your basket.
Just got your CXC or CAPE results? Then start your degree today at CTS College and choose from many of our pathways in business management, business administration, human resource management, marketing, finance, management information systems, computer engineering, computing and information systems. Full and partial scholarships are available. CTS College, where education is beyond academics.
Tired of mosquitoes and flies invading your home? Insect Screen Specialist keeps the bugs out while letting the fresh air in. Custom fit screens, sleek designs, perfect for Caribbean living. Visit our showroom at Munich Hardware, St. Joseph, or call 354-3012. Insect Screen Specialist. Fresh air, no pests.
As parents, we want the best for our children, to see them grow up healthy, happy, and strong. But did you know that there's a virus so common that most people have it at one point in their lives?
HPV stands for the human papilloma virus.
It's a virus that can cause cervical cancer and other types of cancers. But the good news is, there's a way to prevent it.
So is the HPV vaccine really necessary?
Yes. The HPV vaccine helps your child's immune system fight the virus before it can do any harm, between ages 9 to 26 years old.
But Doc, I heard this vaccine is only for girls.
The HPV vaccine is given to both boys and girls. It protects against penile and cervical cancers.
The vaccine is safe, effective, and recommended by professionals worldwide. It's available through school programs and health centers at no cost. Let's give our children the protection they deserve. Let's be HPV heroes. Get them vaccinated today.
This and every Wednesday, Tobago Talks, and when Tobago Talk, we listen. With me on the phone line, Diane Haddad, the past chairman of the Tobago Division. And of course, that's, well, the Tobago Division of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Diane, let me say good morning to you, and great to have you on this Wednesday.
Good morning to you, JW, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Of course, we're looking at not only the mid-year budget review here for Trinidad, but more so the budget review that will transpire in Tobago when the Secretary of Finance takes to the floor next week. Now, from what we understand, at least the allocation, at least one thing they could both agree on, which is, of course, the THA-run administration under the leadership of course, Chief Secretary Farley, and even the minority leader. For the first time in a long time, they've agreed on one thing, that they find the allocation, at least some of the money is being put forward, is way too little. Walk me through the financial climate, the financial positioning of Tobago right now and what is required really to give it that much needed boost?
JW, let me say that when we want to ask for stuff and criticize what we get and what we don't get, we need to be clear about what we have done with what we got in the past. And Chief Secretary Fali Augustine has had the leadership role of the island for the last 3.5 years, where they were getting all of the allocations for the annual budgets, quarterly or monthly or whatever the arrangement it turned out to be. As an island, we have not seen any economic stimulation. We have also not seen any sort of development other than 2 roads or 3 roads that were done, which, as we know, the contracts were done and given to the Trinidad contractors. So at the end of the day, the funding and the economic movement has not taken place. The island has been flat. So us going to say that we want more, right? And there was something bandied about on the ground all the time that the ask was for $200 million more and that they would be getting about $175 million. This is just talk on the ground, that this is what the expectation was. Now, let me say that we understand or we know, it was no secret even when the PNM was in power, that the Treasury, we were struggling and we had problems, paying bills or whatever. Things were not great. What will make it different with UNC coming into power, that Mrs. Vasant Bharath as Prime Minister and her team, what will make it different that they would suddenly find magical money?
Well, at least we could safely say it's off to probably, at least optics-wise, off to a much better start, because we saw a meeting with the Chief Secretary and the newly minted Prime Minister, of course, a second term. All smiles, shake hands. The TPP are sitting on the government's bench on their side. A matter of fact, Brian Manning mentioned recently that, well, on the program this morning, that TPP didn't even really, the Tobago West and Tobago East MPs did not really lobby for more money when they had that discussion, because I'm seeing it's a $32 million supplementary allocation. That represents about 1%.
What you're saying is contradictory. You just said that the 2 MPs didn't lobby for more, but you're saying the Chief Secretary and Finance Secretary are saying they didn't get enough. So is it that the 2 MPs don't know what they're doing, or they just there as pictures on a wall?
Well, that's what prefaced it, Dan, by suggesting it might have been for the optics. I'm not too sure what happened behind closed doors, but at least what we saw.
Well, let us go back now.
Yeah.
When Fali was installed as Chief Secretary, then he and the then Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, had a fantastic meeting. He came out of the meeting and said, Dr. Rowley's really a good man. He gave me good advice, and everything was all hunky-dory, wasn't it?
Yeah, I recall.
It was all hunky-dory then. And then everything seemed to be going, okay, we'll take advice, we'll make it work. Dr. Rowley's a Tobagonian, and he will take care of this thing while we go along, shuffling. And then there was this indication that there was an ask for another, I think it was 100 and something or 200 million again, anyway, to pay off contractors. And when it was to pay off these contractors, and they were allocated 100 million, somewhere in there when they got the 100 million, the money was not allocated as per the agreement, and this is when everybody started attack each other. So everything was all shaken and nice at the beginning too, nothing was attack at the beginning. So we have to wait to see how it will unfold, this relationship, how it will unfold.
Yeah.
Right? But 32 million plus their allocation for this quarter, to me, seems to be decent enough to get us through the quarter, given the government time to go in and do the annual budget. Because I don't know that Mrs. Vasant Bharath has a magic wand any different to Dr. Rowley and them to just come in and pull money out of a hat. Now, what is baffling is where was was the money spent for the last 3.5 years? Is it that it is in recurrent expenditure and we just hired a lot of people and therefore no money was really put out on economic activity?
But Ms. Haddad,
because the island is flat.
It's common knowledge that major part of the THA's spend is really on THA salaries.
No, I know. I mean, please, I helped do presentations to the chamber for years until I got fed up and just changed the date on one year and handed it back to them because we were just saying the same thing over and over and going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself caused conflict because, you know, at the end of the day, you're writing this thing over and over and you're not getting anywhere. And what is being done? Okay, so they have to tell us what is the recurrent expenditure. They may have gotten, let us say, X million, right, in recurrent expenditure. And they may have carried that up by double. They may have carried it up by 1.5 times, employing their party people. We don't know where the money has been spent. We surely not seeing it, JW. We are not seeing it or feeling it.
So you're really telling me in the last 3.5 years, other than the 2 roads you mentioned, there's been no major infrastructural development?
No, our roads look similar to yours, probably worse. Potholes all over, the drains are not being done. There's a road, if I were to show you, that is carded on the table through the committee at work for years now to get drainage and pave, which is coming into a development which my business place is in. If you see the condition of that road, I actually bounced up a crew that came from Trinidad to do an advertisement, to film an advertisement, to show that the product they had, how good it was for your car. And they went on that road, and I said, what are you all doing here filming this? And they said, no, it's an ad we're doing. I said, and what? They said, well, this road is so bad, it's going to show what our product could do.
Wow, Diane,
and that has not been addressed. So how can we sit and say we just want more money? This is the problem that I say Tobago has to have addressed. That mindset has to be changed. You cannot keep going saying you want more, you want more. Can you go to your employer, JW, and say, I just want more money if your show is not bringing in more viewership and ads and whatever? Can you go and do that? Or do you have to present something that is worthwhile, that is high in terms of the contribution to the baseline, and then you can have a conversation? We just want more without saying what we are bringing to the table.
Well, let me ask, and seeing that we're already dealing with Tobago and the economy, and wow, you know, what you're saying here is very startling this morning, but I want to ask you personally about the Tobago tourism product. What is it really? Because I'm hearing there are different factors, or at least different voices suggesting that they want the experience to be a premium one. I'm seeing recently Hilton announcing they're going to be back in the Tobago space. But then there are those who want Tobago to remain this ecotourism, this mamas and papas guest house, tours in the sand. You could go and pull a net down Roxborough with the locals kind of feel. What is really the Tobago tourism product at this point in time, or where should it go?
All right, let me say that first to begin with, people have this thing where you have to create all of this tourism. Tourism is an experience, and because we are all different, it depends on what we are looking for. So tourism cannot be a specific. That's why a specific type of tourism gets boring after a while. Good? When somebody goes to experience another country or another island, first of all, people must want, there will be persons, I should say, that will want the local experience. Because if you go, I want to understand the island, the country. I want to understand some history. I want to understand why you have this there. How do you live? Otherwise, it's better I stay by me. Good, that's one. Then people want decent accommodation. And decent accommodation means that there are different types of accommodation. And therefore, you also have persons who just go to an island or to a country who just go to be, let me call it premium or high-end, just as, you know, they went somewhere else and had another good time based on what their thing is. So let us say the Sandals experience, there are people who follow sandals as a model and they go and enjoy themselves inside. Good?
Yeah.
They leave and go out. They have found that they needed to change part of their model as well. So rather than locking people down inside, they also gave people the option, you can stay by us, but you don't have to buy that full package. You can buy a part of the package. So you're free to move. And this is why I'm saying, we keep saying, what is the product and what is the product? The product is the fact that we are who we are. It's authentic. It must be authentic. And it must be Tobago. What we must not do is disrespect people. What we must not do is treat people badly. We must not rob people. But people are happy to come to go on the beach. There are people who are happy to come and take a boat charter. There are people who are happy to come and drive the island. There are people who are happy to come and go Charlottesville and experience pulling in a sail. There are people who are happy to come and experience the Tobago Heritage Festival. There are people who are happy to come and do. There are other people who want to come when all of that is not going on, so they can spend a different time and experience. So we have to get out of what the product is, because everything is a product once you package it right and treat people right and don't rob them. Those are the important factors.
Diane,
right?
Yes. Sincere thanks as always, Diane. You know, always frank, straight to the point. You give us the commentary in real time. And let's not wait so long again to have another discussion. Probably after this budget review in Tobago, if in the next couple of weeks, if you have some time, let's touch base again.
No problem. Great. Have a good day, everyone.
That's right. Diane Haddad there, touching base, the past chairman of the Tobago Division of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Let's continue with our mid-year budget review. We'll go back to the Trinidad side of things. Probably we could even sprinkle some of the Tobago perspective, but with us on the Zoom line, Dr. Indira Sajiwan, economist, to continue with our mid-year budget review. And remember, this evening at 7:30, Ryan Bechu and a fantastic panel will go through the real breakdown, go through all the numbers, and that's later at 7:30 with Ryan.
Embrace life with Guardian Life.
Every sunrise brings a new beginning, a quiet promise that we're never truly alone in life's journey.
So grateful for this precious life. Embrace it with a fearless stride. Dig so deep to turn your dreams to reality. With a bright future on your side. Through every journey you will find what you've earned and accomplished. You now deserve to be. Embrace life with Guardian Life. Only you can pave the road for your legacy. Is one step closer to live easy.
Embrace life with Guardian Life. Life, health insurance, and pension solutions.
When I am with my friends and those pains that knock me down arrive, I take Panadol Ultra because it relieves fast 5 types of tough pain and it does not irritate the stomach. That's why my choice is always Panadol Ultra to feel relief quickly and enjoy every second. Panadol, release starts here.
Things don't always go as expected. Be ready with Trinry for auto, home, business, and group life. Call us at 800 TRIN or visit trinry.com today. Huge insurance premium. Pay your premiums bit by bit with FlexiPay from Trinry. For more manageable auto, home, and commercial insurance payments, call us at 800 TRIN or visit trinry.com today. Trinry, premier insurance coverage for less.
Ready to turn heads and steal the spotlight? Then head to Rosari Bridal Couture, your all-in-one fashion destination for every celebration. From stunning bridal lehengas to simple everyday shawwas, sparkling jewelry, affordable kids wear, stylish Muslim clothing, and even puja essentials, we've got it all under one roof. Get free footwear with any bridal outfit and get free matching bangles with kids wear. Need the perfect fit? Our in-house tailor is here for you. We're open 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Just take the Southern Highway to Brentwood, Chaguanas and call 723-9099 for more info. Rosari Bridal Couture, where fashion meets celebration, all inclusive.
ChatGPT, I'm falling.
Failing grades? Contact Student Hub.
I ain't say failing, I say falling.
Then it's time to stop failing. Student Hub helps students succeed online. If school feels
almost like a free fall. Student Hub helps you land on top.
Get the story first. Want to know what's happening in news, sports, or crime? Get the CNC3 app. As the story breaks, CNC3 is there giving you the story first on your mobile device. Be connected to the most trusted and reliable news source, CNC3. Access your world with just a tap. The CNC3 app. Download it today.
Some of us like to test limits, but there won't always be second chances. Obey the speed limits. Maybe you don't value your life, but others value theirs. A message from the TTPS.
Welcome back. Before we get a chance to get into some more media budget review, just to let you know that Finance Minister Tanku is set to take center stage today as he presents the new government's inaugural media budget review. Tanku has signaled his intention to outline the alleged financial mismanagement of the previous administration, which he claims caused the local economy to crash. The presentation also marks a pivotal opportunity for the government to unveil its financial agenda and priorities for the remainder of the fiscal year. My colleague Akash Samaru shares more with this story.
We already know that government is seeking $3.14 billion in additional funds to finance what the incoming Prime Minister called an over $4.42 billion deficit hole that she claimed the PNM left behind. We also know that the Standing Finance Committee has already approved significant sums to the Ministries of Health, Public Utilities and Education. But come Wednesday, the Finance Minister has promised startling revelations after he claimed that the previous government crashed the economy. But society and stakeholders alike will be closely monitoring Tanku's presentation in the Parliament to gauge the new government's fiscal priorities, at least until the national budget later this year. Economist Dr. Valmiki Arjun expects the mid-year review will highlight what he's calling the fragile fiscal position that the new administration inherited. Dr. Arjun estimates the current state's fiscal deficit to have increased to $8.69 billion. Now, at the start of the financial year, the PNM administration estimated a $5.5 billion deficit. The Economist told CNC3 News that this, together with the $46 billion overdraft in the Consolidated Fund, underscores the extent of the government's inherited liquidity constraints and highlights the urgent need for improved revenue mobilization, expenditure rationalization, and tighter cash flow management to restore fiscal credibility. He anticipates that manifesto promises will also be a talking point, which brings us to the Public Services Association, a union which partnered with the UNC and has been promised a wage negotiation starting at 10%. President Felicia Thomas said they're trying to be realistic, and while they hope Minister Tanku speaks to the negotiations on Wednesday, if that's not done, then they are hoping it is addressed in the national budget later this year. On the business front, Kiran Singh told CNC3 News his chamber is hoping for updates on the San Fernando Waterfront Project, the Point-a-Pierre Refinery, the UEDB campus, and the Labre Dry Dock Shipping Facility. Meanwhile, the Police Service Social and Welfare Association is hoping the resource constraints are addressed to ensure officers get necessary training, equipment, and the maintenance of police stations. And with respect to the education sector, the National Parent Teachers Association said it is looking forward to hearing that financial resources would be pumped into schools for repairs and infrastructure upgrades. Akash Samaru, CNC3 News.
Thank you so much, Akash. We transition immediately into our conversation with Dr. Indira Sajiwan, economist. She joins me on the Zoom line to continue with this mid-year budget review, our breakdown. Of course, later on, more analysis with Ryan Bechu from 7:30 right here on CNC3. Let me say good morning to Dr. Sajiwan. Welcome. Great to see you as always.
Good morning, Jason. Good to see you as well, and good morning to all your viewers.
And I'm glad that you're here with me because this morning I had, two former ministers in the Ministry of Finance. Of course, the first being Brian Manning, the second, Vasant Bharath, two highly respected men in their field. And again, one, of course, on the side of Mr. Bharath, Vasant Bharath would have mentioned that he is leaning towards what the finance minister is suggesting, that the economy is in a state of disrepair, crash, as it were. Those were the words. But Brian Manning would have mentioned that that's not the case. He said that the economy was handed over in good stead. From your lens, as an economist, looking at the numbers, where are we right now, before we even get into the mid-year budget review? What's the status of the economy?
The economy is in a difficult state. And I mean, people like myself have been lamenting that for quite some years now. It is not something that just happened overnight. It is something that has been getting progressively worse, and where we are now leaves the current government in a very, very, very difficult position in terms of managing going forward. And this is so largely because our revenue generating capacity is significantly challenged because of the challenges with respect to the energy sector, the shortage of natural gas, relatively low prices for our commodity exports. When you combine those things, that the kind of revenues that we would normally have seen from this sector has been significantly declining. In fact, it peaked at around 2013 and has been on the decline since. The non-energy sector has been showing some signs of growth, although it's extremely marginal. So that the challenge remains for Trinidad and Tobago in terms of increasing our sources of revenue generation, of foreign exchange generation. As long as we are unable to do that, then the issue of deficit budgeting remains our reality. And already this new administration has sent the signal that the initial projection of the last administration, which was a deficit of about $5.something billion, will now be closer to the vicinity of about $9 billion. And we're only midway of the fiscal year. So, at the end of the day, let's see what happens. So, it is a very difficult situation we're in.
So how does the new administration maneuver these uncharted waters, choppy waters? Because the TTRA, we know that that's going to be on a back burner or shelved. The Prime Minister said the dragon is dead. Different revenue streams that came from the last administration do not seem to be relevant in the new dispensation, this new reality. So how does the current administration, the new administration, generate the much needed funds and get the economy and the wheels turning?
But Jason, that is not a correct statement. Even if last administration had to eventually accept the fact that the Dragon deal was basically, I don't want to use the word dead, but it certainly had to be shelved because of obvious reasons.
Well, I mean, it was impacted by geopolitics, but I know
correct,
that...
Exactly. But those geopolitical circumstances remain very strong. And even if the government didn't change, that would have been a reality. So we would not have seen revenues coming from that source. The Revenue Authority is an institution. It is an institution much like the BIR, that is charged with the responsibility of collecting taxes. The former administration touted it as the answer to our revenue challenges in terms of ensuring that it captured all possible avenues of taxes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that a different mechanism cannot do the same thing. And this administration is simply saying we do not support that mechanism, and we are putting in place, or we are strengthening the BIR in order to achieve the same objective. In the same way we would have had to give the TTRA the opportunity to prove itself, I think now we have to give this administration the opportunity to prove that its mechanism can do that particular job. The figures being bandied about, I think, is we have to really wait and see in terms of that. But that remains a source of revenue that comes from taxation, taxing current individuals. And while, yes, we have situations where we have the doubles vendor, the taxi drivers, people who may be renting their homes privately, etc., who do not currently pay taxes, and it is a source of revenue that you want to capture, there is no magic bullet that says that guarantees that this in fact will happen. The bottom line is we need to get our productive sectors growing significantly. And in my view, the imperative resides in the non-energy sector, in areas such as tourism, and there are a lot of low-hanging fruits within tourism. You and I have spoken about those on this program. There is non-energy manufacturing, there's agro-processing that is linked backwards to food production and food security. Food security will reduce the demand for our scarce foreign exchange. We currently import over $1 billion in food. If we can bring that down, that would be savings, foreign exchange savings that we could realize in a very quick time. So that these are some of the opportunities that we have. You asked the question, how is the government going to maneuver given the current challenges? Well, I mean, that's pretty simple in this moment. It has to borrow. There is no other option that is available to the government. It either must borrow in order to maintain the level of expenditure, or it must sell assets. And the third item is it has available to it is to draw down on the Heritage and Civilization Fund once the conditions exist that allows it to be able to draw down on those funds. So those are the three areas that are available to the government in the short, to what I call the short to short medium term. That will continue to be its go-to places in order to maintain the economy as we currently have it. But simultaneously and aggressively, we need to see effort being placed on increasing the revenue flows from our productive sector.
Dr. Sajiwan, if indeed we do borrow, that first option, will it impact the value of the dollar, especially pegged to the U.S.?
No, it doesn't necessarily do that. The value of the U.S. dollars the U.S. dollar it's a commodity, and it has to do with demand and supply. And borrowing doesn't necessarily, challenge that particular. I need to just plug my
no problem. Take your time.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily challenge that, but it is a fact that we have been told repeatedly by the IMF that our currency is overvalued. In fact, this economy is operating largely, and I have said this repeatedly, on what we know as the black market rate. That is what the entire economy operates on, because there's limited resources of foreign exchange that's available on the official market through the banking system. So by and large, anybody who needed more money than that have to get it on the black market. And that is the rate at which businesses are costing production, costing the goods and services that are offered on the shelf. That is a reality. Past government made a decision that it was not going to interfere with the rate of the currency. We are to hear from this administration what its position is with respect to that. But it will simply be formalizing at this stage what we already know the economy is operating at. Of course, it would more likely than not also result in a new higher black market rate. But that is left to be seen in terms of whether this administration believes that is the route it wants to go.
You think we should put a little more focus on remittances? I mean, obviously, that could be another generator of foreign exchange. I mean, we're not probably any level of, let's say, Jamaica, but I know there are many who still send resources back home to family and friends.
Absolutely. But, Trinidad and Tobago has always been a little bit different to the islands around us, because we've always been perceived as richer, more comfortable. There's always the perception that there's the availability of the goods and services that we need on the shelf. And therefore, you have not had relatives who live abroad feeling as obliged to send back monies to individuals living in Trinidad and Tobago. It certainly is an area that we can look at, but we need to look at the global market and in terms of what is happening. Because if there is not growth in the global market, then even those individuals out there who may have families in Trinidad and Tobago may not have the capacity to be able to send resources back. We should probably look at the issue of encouraging nationals who live abroad to potentially bring money back to make investment in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. But for that to happen, the environment in Trinidad and Tobago needs to be one where people feel comfortable to bring and invest their money, where they believe that there are opportunities to make money by investing their money. They must believe their money is safe. So they would want to know, for example, they can easily take money back out and take it to wherever they are. But in a foreign exchange situation as we have, that is not a guarantee. In a situation where crime is what it is, the opportunities for investment is not as attractive as it needs to be.
Dr. Sajiwan, as always, a sincere thanks. Let's probably have another discussion after the mid-year review, and as always, appreciate the time and the perspective.
But if I could just say, I think this is a new government. We need to give it a moment to be able to settle itself, to be able to rethink how it goes forward. But the realities which have predated it still exist. The realities is we need to diversify the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, and we need to do it in as aggressive a manner as we did with respect to developing the energy sector.
Dr. Sajiwan, as always, all the best. Thanks for touching base this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Indira Sajiwan, economist. Of course, the mid-year budget review, the discussion continues later on with Ryan Bechu and a truly amazing panel, and that starts at 7:30 p.m. right after the news, a shortened version of the news this evening. Up next, Dr. Catherine Minto-Bain, TT-IVF, and we have some very important questions again this morning concerning IVF. Dr. Minto-Bain, she joins me next.
Southern Food Basket. Quality food to fill your basket. Get it all at Southern Food Basket. Fresh goods on every aisle with best prices. For the best mix and market, high quality, yes. It's affordable, spacious, and customer friendly. From the farm to the cart to your plate. Southern Food Basket, good food at great prices. Come on home, everybody, don't you wait. Southern Food Basket's the best marketplace for you. Southern Food Basket. Quality food to fill your basket. Southern Food Basket. Quality food to fill your basket.
Get the best and affordable eyewear. Frames with blue filter lenses and eye exam, $399. Single vision lenses with transitions on designer frames, $799. Progressive transitions with designer frames, $1,399. Happening only at Seaview Optical. Affordable eye care for everyone.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on CNC3 and start your wellness journey today.
People come to me and they say they get discomfort when they have ice cream. Sensodyne gives you long-lasting protections against sensitivity. I recommend Sensodyne because it works. It's brilliant.
Crack the science of stronger hair. New Fructis with keratin, protein, or biotin in reloaded systems. Up to 72 hours frizz control, 48 hours definition, or 72 hours thicker looking hair. New Fructis by Garnier, naturally.
Medical Director at the TT-IVF, Dr. Catherine Minto-Bain, joins me on set. I want to get to you this morning and bring 5 powerful questions. All the questions and all the discussions are always powerful, but these are sometimes, when we did our little survey, some of the top questions. So as always, Doc, great to see you. Good morning.
JW, it's always lovely to be here. Thank you.
People are asking, and they've been asking me to ask you, how many IVF babies you think you've brought into the world, into existence via their families?
I was trying to actually count it up the other day. I came here in 2004, and after the first few years, you kind of lose count. I went and had a look. We've helped about 12,000 people with fertility over the last decade, and I think the count of the babies is up to, I got to about 3,500 with all of the treatments we have, not just IVF, maybe nearer 4,000 these days.
Wow.
A lot of beautiful babies.
That is a massive, that's huge. What's usually the first question patients ask? The first question, what is there something that is a common occurrence in terms of that first question?
Yeah, people always ask, well, what is IVF? they're confused and they want to know, because we have IUI, we have IVF. So IVF is really, it's a simple treatment where you are essentially taking a little bit of fertilization out of the body, and you're basically getting the egg and sperm together in the IVF lab. So you get the eggs out of the body, the sperm from the guy, you put the two things together in the IVF lab, create embryos, and then you put those back inside the womb. That's usually what people want to know when they first come along. And the wonderful thing is, I think the more we talk on TV, the more we talk on radio, the more people know what IVF is and they have an understanding of it.
What do you say to those who want to know their chances of success? You know, they want to know the burning question, is it possible for me to have a baby?
Yeah, and I think that's question number 2. It's really how likely is it to happen? And people nowadays understand it's not a guarantee. And it really comes down to how good are your eggs, how good is the sperm, how good is the womb that the baby's going to go into. And a woman's age has a real impact on that. So a young woman, 25, lost both of her tubes from ectopic pregnancies. If the guy has had kids before or his sperm is good, she has a really good chance. But then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got a 44-year-old woman who's never had children, 16 years trying, her chance of a live birth is less than 5%. So we have to be really honest and break it down for people. And actually it comes down to what's your individual situation? What do you need? It's really important. And we don't forget guys. Guys' age is important as well. Guys have to be healthy. Their age is important. And we're seeing a lot more health issues in men that affect the sperm these days.
I would imagine another important talking point would be obviously the cost. What do patients need to know?
Yeah, and that's the worry. That's people's anxiety when they come in, and they actually don't like to talk about it to begin with. So the nurse, the first appointment is freeness with the nurse, and we like to talk about cost with you, because you need to know what you actually need, because there are 4 things with IVF. You've got to think about the IVF, absolutely. That's around $38,000 if you need IVF. And we also just check that you can't get pregnant with something else. Most people in our clinic get actually pregnant with simpler treatments. So you look at the IVF, and then you look at the sperm. Is that great and you don't need anything adding on, or do you need sperm injection? You look at the woman's age and her medication. She's going to have medication to grow her eggs. All of those things fit together. So it's very individual. And sometimes you can do minimal stimulation IVF. You don't need a lot of drugs. And that brings the cost down to around 50,000 TT as a kind of package.
Someone asked me to ask you on the program, do IVF babies go through any kind of health issues?
Yeah, that's another one we get asked a lot. Will my baby be healthy? I'm doing something that I consider a little out of the box, unusual. Will that affect the baby? And the good news is, no. We've had over 12 million babies born around the world now from IVF. If we look at the latest statistics, 12 million IVF babies. And the data is showing that they're just as healthy and normal as babies born the natural, conceived the natural way.
Have we missed any particular consideration? Because I'm sure it's so many different questions and different considerations.
Women always say, is it safe for me to do IVF? Am I going to go through surgery? Is it risky? They think of the eggs being deep inside their body and you have to cut in to get them out, and that's not the case. It's actually very safe. So we can grow the eggs and watch them carefully with ultrasound. We don't overgrow the eggs these days. We monitor you carefully. And to get them out of your body, it's actually just an ultrasound-guided biopsy. No big cuts, no surgery, no general anesthetic. It was 30 years ago when I was a medical student, but nowadays it's very low impact. It's all ultrasound guided.
And that obviously will also impact cost. It will be way less.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And that's why we also do minimal stimulation, because people that reduces cost even more. And people are sometimes surprised at actually how inexpensive, less expensive than they thought IVF would be.
Any, in terms of closing remarks, and more so, ways to continue the conversation and contact you?
Yeah, closing remarks. I mean, 1 in 6 people deal with infertility, and lots of people these days need to go to IVF first. I think the insurance companies really need to look at funding or covering fertility-related testing, fertility-related treatments. I was listening to your segment just before. I would love the government to think about funding or helping people dealing with infertility, because having more babies adds into the economy. We have the potential of doing medical tourism here as well. If anybody's listening, we're ready for it, and we need investment, and we need to be able to bring people into the country for IVF. We have fantastic clinic here, and we're ready for medical tourism. So there's a lot that's exciting about fertility treatment in TNT. And if people are dealing with fertility issues, you can get us online, trinidadivf.com. We're on all the socials. Come and have a look at what we're doing in the clinics during the day. And you can call us 222-8341.
Dr. Catherine Minto-Bain touching base with us yet again. A very powerful conversation, impactful conversation. Doc, thank you as always.
Thank you, JW.
Most welcome. We come back to officially wrap things up. And before we leave, just that reminder, mid-year budget review, the conversation. It continues later on with Ryan Bechu. We'll give you a reminder before we leave.
At Cruise Inn Hotel and Yachting Center, we're all about time. In fact, once you check in, there's no time to lose. Reconnect with a little family time. Make a splash with some pool time. Spend some treasured quality time. Or just immerse yourself in some quiet time. Indulge your senses at dinner time. We even have the perfect venue when it's your celebration time. So it's high time you visit Cruise Inn. Choose our day pass or call 607-4000 to make your dinner or hotel reservations or to find out more about our event spaces. Take a time out at Cruise Inn Hotel and Yachting Center.
Cold or flu? Take Panadol Multi-Symptoms. Relief in minutes. 7 cold and flu symptoms. Panadol. Release starts here.
Welcome to ABC Doors and Windows, TNT's #1 destination for the best quality and widest variety of doors and windows. Enhance your space with our premium wooden, steel panels, fiberglass, and steel security doors, complemented by our aluminum, UPVC, and steel windows. Shop for the best quality and service at ABC Doors and Windows. Visit our impressive showroom at 1 Chancatrace, El Socorro South, or call 638-7184 to get started. Trust ABC for a better choice.
As we look to wrap and pull the curtains down, just a quick reminder, programming note, we will be here tomorrow, so look out for us, a shortened version for our Labor Day, and then on Friday for Corpus Christi, again, another shortened version from 6 to 7. So I'm here with you tomorrow and Friday. We give thanks for that, and by all means, we look forward to the post-mid-year budget review discussion. That's right, State of the Treasury. Of course, Ryan Bechu will be there, and we're seeing the likes of, Nirad Tawari and Karen Nunes Teixeira, just to name a few. It's going to be a really amazing panel, a couple of different folks within the financial space giving their perspective, and Ryan being that host. Truly amazing show in store later on from 7:30 p.m. So check it out tonight, right here on CNC3. Until tomorrow, God spare. Have yourselves a great one. Be safe, TNT. And as always, a sincere thanks for tuning in and for being part of the Morning Brew with me and the amazing team. See you tomorrow.
The Morning Brew is brought to you by Omega XL. Live long, stay strong.